What if we're wrong in the way that we think about the story of David and Goliath? Hey everybody, it's Chris as we continue our series Summer of Soul, and we continue to learn how to care for the hidden part of you as we journey along with the life of a man named David. Now first off, happy Father's Day to all the men out there. Whether you're a father or a husband or a brother, uncle, son, all of you are important to us. All of you have influence on us, so thank you for all that you do. Second of all, before we get any further today, we've got to stop and say, God may not show favoritism, but we sure do. We won the Stanley Cup this week, and it was amazing. If you haven't been following along, St. Louis Blues were in last place in the NHL in January, and yet now they are the Stanley Cup champions. And I don't just mention that because it's a great story and we love our St. Louis Blues, but because it's a great setup to what we're talking about today. Because today in our series, you're going to read the famous account of David versus Goliath. Now, I know, you've heard this story before, and it's been analyzed and applied to death, but I promise you, today you are going to think about the story in a whole new way. So first, let's get some context of where this all takes place so you can get a picture in your head of what you're going to read. So this whole thing goes down in a place called the Valley of Elah. And on one side of the valley on a hill is the Israelite army, and on the other side of the valley on another hill is the Philistine army. And for 40 days, the two armies just kind of stare at each other in a stalemate, each one daring the other to be the first to step onto the battlefield. But the Israelis had another reason to fear. The Philistines had a champion who was famously called Goliath. Depending how you translate the text, Goliath is either 6'6" or he's 9 feet tall. And the average Hebrew male back then was just over 5 feet tall, so Goliath was a massive man. And a man of Goliath's stature would actually stand in the second rank behind a shield wall of soldiers. And while the soldiers in front of him were fighting the opposing army, he would just stand with a 23-pound spear and just picking off guys in front of him, one by one by one. He was an opposing figure. And every day during these 40 days, while these two armies faced at each other, Goliath would step onto the battlefield and taunt the armies of Israel, saying, "I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and we will fight each other." And the deal was, if Goliath won, the Israeli army would become their slaves. If the Israeli man won, the Philistines would become the Israeli slaves. And while Goliath's voice would echo across the valley, the Israeli army would look at each other and be like, "Dude, I'm not going." It was incredibly embarrassing for the Israeli army because no one had the power to stand up to him. And all of this went on and on until the 41st day, a number significant for new beginnings, when a teenage boy named David left the town of Bethlehem bringing rations for his brothers who were in the Israeli army. And he walked 17 miles to the Valley of Elah. It's about a 6-hour walk. And that's where your reading is going to begin today. Now, as you read, you're going to be thinking about your own challenges and the own giants you face, and that's good. But I can't wait for you to hear the surprising way that God is trying to speak to you about those challenges through the story of David and Goliath. Have a great time, everybody. I can't wait for you to have this discussion. Enjoy yourselves, and let's go Blues.